a man who needs no introduction, and I'd go sit down. But I'm going to tell you a little bit. Dwight Tarwater graduated from Bearden High School, and he was a torchbearer when he got his bachelor's degree at UT. He got interested in politics while he was in college, and that's important. I'll come back to that in a moment. He went on to get his law degree at the UT College of Law, now the Winston College of Law. And while he was in college, he met and later married a lady named Mary Flowers. And Mary's father was Alabama's Attorney General at the time, and he backed civil rights laws during Governor George Wallace's first term. You can imagine what a position that put their family in, and Mary's father later lost his own bid for governor. But seeing the toll the public service had taken on her father, she urged her husband not to go into politics, but to do something else. And Dwight Tarwater became an associate at the Edgerton McAfee firm here in Knoxville. He worked with Don Payne, representing large companies and litigation. He took the lead in defending asbestos manufacturers and won a large case for one of those clients. And suddenly he was lead trial counsel and appeared in courtrooms in 20 states and all across the state of Tennessee. He co-founded the firm of Payne, Tarwaters, and Bickers, but while he continued to represent large companies, he also took a lot of pro bono work on. Dwight Tarwater has represented a homeless man who lived in a doghouse, a veteran who sold cardboard to make ends meet, and a mom just trying to keep a car on the road. But for his clients, and for the lawyers in the room, yours too, each of those cases is probably the most important thing going on to that person at the time. And Dwight Tarwater brought the same skill and compassion to those cases as he did to the big companies that he represented. He lost his wife in 2012, and almost as with her blessing, those opportunities that he thought about when he was in college returned to him. And about a year after his wife had passed away, Governor Haslam called and asked him to serve as the general counsel. He took the job and coordinated 23 departments in the executive branch. And either Dwight Tarwater or his deputies read every single contract, piece of legislation, document that came before the governor. During his service, he saw measurable positive changes throughout Tennessee. We had growth in education, growth in the economy, and decreases in violent crime. Governor Lee thought this made him a good candidate to be on our state's Supreme Court. And in February of 23, Governor Lee nominated him to that seat on the Supreme Court, and the General Assembly, believe it or not, unanimously. General Assembly never does anything unanimously, but they approved Dwight Tarwater's nomination to the Supreme Court unanimously. Please help me welcome Tennessee's Supreme Court Justice Dwight Tarwater.
Well, thank you, Ed, for that very nice introduction, which does not remotely resemble what you sent to me. Told me that you were you told me what you were going to say, but thank you for that. And you know, when I started thinking about my remarks, I thought, you know, I wonder if any of this group has met a Supreme Court justice. And then I look out and I see a bunch of my friends here, you know, David Long, Wes Stowers, and Sandy and David Martin, my pal from years, Annette Winston is here, Chris Lambert, who swam with my son. So I'm delighted to be here. When I think about this group and I think about your contributions to our community and to the world, I feel like I should be listening to you speak, that you don't need to be listening to me. But since I do have this job, I'll do the best I can today speaking to you. I will tell you, I know what you do here. I know that you've been in existence since 1950. I know that you are the largest and oldest service club in the community, and that means something. So it's an honor to be with you today. So yeah, Governor Lee appointed me in 2023. I was not a particularly conventional candidate to be on the Supreme Court. I'd never been a judge. I was getting a little older, but I thought that I should make myself available because my skill set is different than what has ever been on the courts. And by the way, I don't know whether you knew this or not, but the last native Knoxvillian to be appointed before me was in 1947. That's a little too long, 75 years. So maybe we'll work on getting another one from Knoxville here pretty soon. But yeah, and Ed mentioned that I was confirmed unanimously. The reason for that is the reason that this club exists. And that's to build relationships. When I was in Nashville working for Governor Haslam, I developed a lot of good relationships from both sides of the aisle. And so that carried over. It carried over through my confirmation hearings. And it carried over to the ultimate floor vote. And I got to tell you, they called the roll of all 99 members of the House, all 33 members of the Senate. And it was a very humbling moment for me, I can tell you. And I knew that what was important then is that I do exactly what I told Governor Lee I would do. And that is that I would work hard and that I would be fair. That's what I've set out to do. And sometimes, you gotta, when you call balls and strikes, it might not necessarily, it's a ball or a strike, regardless of who's pitching or who's batting. And that's the way it has to be. Otherwise, our community, our world will lose confidence in the system. So I don't expect everyone to agree with me all the time, but I will decide the cases based on the record and based on the Constitution as it is written, as it is, not as I wish it were, or as someone else wishes it were. So the judicial branch, the head of the judicial branch is the Supreme Court. There are 5 of us, 2 from Shelby County, Justice Mary Wagner and Justice Holly Kirby. From the middle division, there has to be 1 of us from each grand division. So from the middle, it is Chief Justice Jeff Bivens, who is from Williamson County, and Justice Sarah Campbell, who is from Davidson County. And then I'm the only one from the east. I succeeded Sharon Lee, who probably many of you know. Sharon served very capably and fully in this role. So we're the judicial branch. The legislature makes the laws. The governor, the executive branch, administers the law and runs the government. And then the judicial branch interprets the laws and we decide the disputes between citizens. So to give you an idea of what we do, what I do in my job, almost all of our jurisdiction is by permission. So litigants have to ask us to take their case. We get about 50 of those a month. And we would take typically 2 or 3. And the cases would be tried in the circuit courts or the criminal courts or the chancery courts. And if they're appealed, they go to the Court of Appeals or the Court of Criminal Appeals. There are 12 judges on each of those, and they sit in panels of 3. And then the next step is to ask for permission to appeal to our court. And what we typically do is we would take cases if there is a disagreement maybe among the lower courts, if the law needs clarification, if it's a matter of great public importance, great legal importance. So often the cases that we take have constitutional issues. They would, they might, I give you some examples, maybe a voting rights case is the kind of case that would make it to us. The constitutionality of an abortion statute or a gun statute. Those are the kinds of cases that make it to us. Sometimes we get a business dispute, not that often. You know, business people are, you know, they don't like to pay lawyers, so they figure out how to figure things out before they get to us. But we do, there are a set of cases that we must hear, and one of them probably won't surprise you. Those are death penalty cases. You get an automatic appeal to the Tennessee Supreme Court if you've been sentenced to death. The other case, which is a policy determination made by the legislature, is a parental termination case. So if a parent has a chance that he or she might lose parentage of their children, you often see it with inmates or abandonment or neglect cases. Then those cases go to us. And probably the most sobering and most unexpected aspect to my new job was the number of cases out involving kids. And the records sometimes are very hard to read. And if they make it to us, think about what might be going on in the community that's either not reported or not tried. So something to think about. I know your group likes children. I know you like to help kids. I know you're responsible for educational opportunities, for feeding the hungry. This is work in the light that needs to be shown on our community. So I think of you, and I think about your contributions over 110 years. To have a servant's heart, to do the work. My goodness, these are virtues that every community should be blessed to have. And I'm honored to be before you. So you heard a little bit about my career. I was not a typical judge kind of guy. I'd never been a judge. I've been a lawyer, been in front of about 1,000 judges, nearly all of whom ruled against me, and you know, something like that. I was flying pretty high in 2012 when I was National Trial Counsel for General Electric in their gadolinium-based gadolinium-based contrast litigation, which is a medical procedure. I was flying all over the country trying cases of one kind and another. My oldest son was a member of the 2012 Olympic team, where he won a gold medal on the relay. Thank you, Chris Lambert, for teaching him how to swim. My daughter had just gotten engaged, and my youngest son was playing Division I college basketball at the time and could shoot 3-pointers. Tyler, no, you knew Dwight, right? Yeah, you played some with him. So on Christmas Eve, Mary's heart stopped beating, and my whole world changed. No notice, no goodbye, no last I love you. No, I just knew that I had to get through this. I got a letter from that I still remember that said, "You'll never get over this, but you can get through it." And it's interesting that as we sat on the back porch one night, a couple of months before she died, she said, "You know that promise you made me in 1978 when you asked me to marry you that you would never go into politics?" I said, "Yeah." And she said, "I want you to know I was wrong to ask you that. You're not the man my father was." And that's true in a lot of ways. And she said, "I was just so scared. And I didn't know what to do." But she goes, "I realized that could have changed history." And she said, "I'm just so sorry. Will you forgive me?" And I said, "Of course I'll forgive you, but you don't need my forgiveness. You were helping point my compass in the right direction. And I don't want to go into politics. I just want to be married to you, and we'll raise our grandchildren. And life will be, I'll continue trying a few cases, and life will be good." Well, it was not to be, because 2 months later she was gone. And then a year after that, my friend Herbert Slatery, who had just been appointed to be Attorney General, said, "Governor Haslam's going to need a legal counsel. Would you consider moving to Nashville?" And it was like these two good men just reached into my life and just picked me up and pulled me out of the pit. And so I went to Nashville and I became counsel of the governor. And what a great client he was. He was better than the homeless guy that lived in the office. It's like being the Maytag repairman, he's squeaky clean, and didn't send out a lot of tweets or anything. Anyway, I moved to Nashville, served out that stretch until 2019, moved back to Knoxville, became a partner in my firm, found myself defending Jacobs Engineering in the coal ash cases down in Kingston, which was a very significant piece of litigation. So I kind of stepped back into the life that I had before. And then when the vacancy came about on the Supreme Court, I got some encouragement. I handed my application in to a member of the administrative office of the courts 15 minutes before the deadline in Nashville, because I was still so unsure whether I wanted to do this or not. And then, the governor picks me and my life changes again. So that is kind of what got me here. I was looking before I spoke to you, and I'm going to leave some time for questions and answers. So I'm going to kind of keep an eye on the clock here. About the oath that I took to be a Supreme Court justice. And the oath was to uphold the Constitution and basically to do my duties faithfully. But the oath that I took as a lawyer was different. It's got this second sentence in it that says, "In the practice of my profession, I will conduct myself with honesty, fairness, integrity, and civility to the best of my skill and abilities. So help me God." Honesty, fairness, integrity, and civility. And I thought the same oath should apply to everyone, right? To businessmen and to a nonprofit people, volunteers, nonprofit workers. And so that leads me back to you, Rotary. I think I know who you are. I know that you are servants. I know that you're leaders in the community. I know that you have a commitment to Knoxville. And as a result of that commitment to Knoxville, a commitment to the world. Because I know you do orphanages in Africa, and I know you work on having clean drinking water. I know about your loans and your scholarships to help kids learn and be educated. And you're doing all this with people you like, which makes it even more important and more worthwhile. I saw that you gave Judge Chuck Cerny your Peace Award in 2025. I'm glad you did that. You know, these general sessions judges maybe don't, what they do down there on the front lines, a lot of people don't really know about, but Chuck has done brilliant work in the areas of mental health and drug addiction. He's a real worthy recipient. Y'all did a good job on that. So I've got this rock in my office. It relates to this, okay? Somebody didn't throw it in. But I don't know where I got it. It's got a quote on it from Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes, and it says, what lies behind us and what lies before us are tiny matters compared to what lies within us. Somebody's heard it. So I think about Rotary, and I think what lies within you. I see the service opportunities that you take advantage of. I have told young lawyers, students, that when you see a barren landscape, do you see a barren landscape? Or do you see a park? If you go a mile from here and you see a city block littered with used needles and frequented by prostitutes, do you see that? Or do you see a playground? When you see a homeless person, do you see a person to be avoided or to be embraced? Or, as I tell young lawyers sometimes, that might be a good client for you. So this vision, this honor of this service that you do, I laud you for. I praise you for whatever you're doing. Keep on doing. The thing about service, servants need hope. So Ed told you a little bit about my father-in-law, Richmond Flowers Sr. Now this was the attorney general, not the football player. Football player was his son, my brother-in-law. Two different people for sure, but General Flowers was involved in a lot of the historic events of the Civil Rights era. Selma, the Montgomery bus boycott, the Birmingham church bombing, the prosecution of the Klan for the murders on the Selma Road. So, and so he became Attorney General with this vision of the New South, that all people really are created equal, and that people ought to have an opportunity to drink out of the same water fountain and ride the same bus and attend the same school and have the right to vote. You know, these were pretty radical things for Alabama in the 60s, believe it or not. And when he got inaugurated in 1962, he tried to state this vision for the New South. And Governor Wallace was elected governor at the same time. And Governor Wallace said, this famous pledge, segregation today, segregation tomorrow, segregation forever. At the same time, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. gave a speech in Washington where he said, I have a dream that one day in Alabama, with its vicious racists, with its governor having his lips dripping with the words of interposition and nullification, one day right there in Alabama, little black boys and girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. Now, my word, two very different messages of hope. And history has shown what the good hope was. So as you lead this group, my wish for you is that you would lead with good hope, that you would dream good dreams, that you would do for others what they can't do for themselves. Nobody wants, like, written on their tombstone, man, I live for me. I like me. Me is good. I live for me and nobody else. Oliver Sacks, who was not a religious man, but he was a doctor in New York. Just before he died, he wrote, "I have loved and been loved. I have been given much, and I have given something in return." So fast forward a little bit. I got this job in September of 2023. I've been on the bench for 2 years. One of the first cases I heard has been the most cited case in the last 2 years. That was one of the first opinions that I authored. And there's a sequel. There's a happy ending to the sad chapter in my life. I just celebrated my first anniversary. I got married a year ago to a gal named Mimi Culverhouse from 10 Mile, Tennessee, who lives now in Richmond, Virginia. Her brother, A.B. Culverhouse, who was former counsel to the president and ambassador to Australia, but will be your speaker in May. So I hope to come back and hear what A.B. has to say and try to keep him in line. So, all right, I've got 2 minutes.
We have time for 1 to 2 questions. Bob Marcus.
Hey, Bob, I forgot to list you. How are you, buddy?
Knoxville. All
right, so the story about that is that Bob asked me to be on the board of the opera, and he said, "Have you ever been to the opera?" And I said, "Oh yeah, I saw the Temptations." And he said, "Dwight, I think that was the symphony." So, but thank you, Bob. I'm trying to grow like you to cultural awareness. So thank you.
Much more serious stuff. Legislature has been somewhat active over the last 2 or 3 years. And there's been litigation filed. Obviously, I don't want to be commentary, but can you tell us what cases are sifting up and what you might be seeing on your courts arise in the near future that might be of interest to us?
I don't know how much I can really say about that. One of the things that you may be seeing is the state legislature getting involved a bit with local governments. So that's something you might see. Beyond that, there's the usual, gun right cases and that kind of thing. But, I think that they kind of veer off sometimes, but for the most part, the General Assembly tries to do what the people want done. And I will tell you this, Knox County is very well represented. You have some two good senators, and the state reps they're good people. So
It's very good to hear. Thank you very much, Justice Tarwater. We appreciate having you speak to us today. And before you leave the podium, it is our tradition that we ask our speakers to sign a book, and we will donate it on